So this is session 6 of the Father's house. The second part of the parable that we looked at yesterday, he told the Pharisees who were being critical of him mixing with the sinners. It's the story of the lost coin. Now again in this story, the coin doesn't deliberately lose itself. It's the woman who loses the coin. Her story is not so much hard physical labour to actually find the coin and get it back, but it's diligence. She swept every nook in the house till she found it. And if we think about those houses, they were made of stone and the floors were stone and would have dirt between them. And so it's not like just sweeping a lovely smooth vinyl floor. She would have to sweep every crack between the stones. It would have been tedious, it would have been time consuming, but she was determined to persist until she found that coin. Now the coin did nothing to help itself to be found. It simply lay there where it was. It was all the woman's effort to find it. Again, she calls a party to celebrate. Yes, she would have been pleased because the coin was probably quite valuable. But like the story of the shepherd, she's rejoicing for herself that she's found the coin. Her greatest desire was to find the coin. And God's saying to the Pharisees in their story, shouldn't you really have that desire to find what's been lost? And shouldn't you be just as diligent in doing it? Again, he says there's great rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents, because that's the desire of God's heart, that we bring the lost back into the Father's house. Hard work and persistence, that's our call. These two parts of the parable show us God's heart. It's very skilled storytelling on Jesus' part. The story of the lost sheep is out there in the desert, one sheep out of 100. But then God's desire is for the whole world. The next part that he tells is right at home, just 1 out of 10. There are people within the nation of Israel who are lost. When Jesus was approached by a Canaanite woman asking for help, he was sort of thinking over, well, what shall I do? And he says this, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So our call is to those who are far away and to those who are close by. When we come to the third part of the parable, it's called often the prodigal son, or more recently just the lost son. It's a part of the story that deserves much more attention than just a short looking at it now, because it looks at the very heart of God and the very nature of human beings. And that's what I want to focus on next week. But the challenge for us is to get out there into the world, show people what God is like, what life is like when it's lived in obedience to the King, and they are to woo them back into the Father's house.
Hear the call of the kingdom, lift your eyes to the King. Let his song rise within you as a fragrant offering. Oh, how God has been blessed, King Christ to redeem all who trust in his unfailing love. King of heaven, we will answer the call, we will follow, bringing hope to the world, filled with passion, filled with power to proclaim salvation in Jesus' name. Hear the call of the kingdom to the children of light, with the mercy of heaven and humility of Christ, walking justly, loving all that is right, that the light of Christ may shine through us. King of heaven, we will answer the call, we will follow, bringing hope to the world, filled with passion, filled with power to proclaim salvation in Jesus' name. Hear the call of the kingdom to reach out to the lost, with the Father's compassion in the wonder of the cross, bringing peace and forgiveness and a hope yet to come. Let the nations put their trust in Thee. King of heaven, we will a flame.